Koenders has like played well. I think he would probably, if you ask him admit himself, that there's probably been a couple turns or a couple like pick ban decisions that he probably would like to have back if he did it again. But I think it's kind of speaks to like what the format is kind of presenting everyone with. We do see him ban out the 𝗬𝗏 first here against Dosh.
Yeah, I could definitely respect that, right? 𝗬𝗏 is so strong into 𝗬𝗏𝗺, Ragnet, Mix, even the 𝗬𝗏𝗽, right? So that is looking like a proper ban. Let's see how Dosh answers back. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of going up against the big old dinosaur, right? So I would believe that's a decent ban. But it looks like he has at least like a 𝗧𝗲𝗺 and a 𝗧𝗻𝗺 with wastewater to try to chip away at that dino. So I don't know if it's the proper ban. Let's see what he ends up deciding.
It'll be interesting to see if Dosh has like followed along. If he knows that the neutral Koish, for example, is iridescent, he might be a little reluctant to pick his Gyarander into it right away. But other than that, it's looking like a very strong Gyarander game for Dosh. He's got a couple mentals to help it against Skunch, and it definitely scares out the 𝗬𝗏𝗺 here.
Yeah, you're so right. We haven't really seen a 𝗧𝗻𝗺 do too many things as of lately. So maybe things are different in this format and in this game right here. So I couldn't agree more. I feel like 𝗧𝗻𝗺 looks like a really nice Temtem. I don't even see, oh, interesting enough, not even considering it Ys. Interesting.
I think because he's on orange here, Dosh is like really pressured to pick Minotaur to threaten 𝗬𝗺𝗺 and then something to threaten the Ragnet that Koenders can counterpick. This is a pretty good matchup for Koenders having blue. Being able to just pick 𝗬𝗺𝗺 on the first pick and then force Dosh into a certain set of picks because there is this threat of Ragnet coming in and just sparksing it up and having it go to town. This Minotaur is just not a very effective attacker at this point because it's going to be going up against Electric Custodian. So we'll see how that kind of plays out here, but I would imagine that Koenders is pretty happy about these first two picks.
Yeah, very well said. Of course, that Electric Custodian keeping the 𝗬𝗺𝗺 nice and safe for that opening turn as long as the Ragnet stays around. But hey, that is a question how long it will stay around. As you mentioned, the Turok with those devastating stone balls potentially taking him down in a single swing. Maybe not a single swing, but it's going to be pretty close. So we will be seeing here on that opening turn. But there we have it. Koenders picking up the 𝗬𝗏𝗽 just for that wind damage on things like the 𝗧𝗲𝗺 and maybe a little water damage for that 𝗬𝗆 as well. So very good Temtem looking for the backline of Dosh. But here it is, finally picking up the 𝗧𝗻𝗺, and it's looking like quite the good Temtem as we mentioned before.
Yeah, I think if you look at Koenders' second ban as well, taking the Whip Lump, I think he anticipates that either Ragnet will not be on the board for very long, like it's going to die, or that he's not going to be attacking very often with it. And it's really good for his 𝗬𝗏𝗽 if Whip Lump is banned out because now it's very hard to resist the spreader attacks. So if Koenders can start to develop the spark, start to develop the gameplay with Ragnet here, it could be tough for Dosh to keep up. I think Koenders is pretty well positioned coming out of this draft.
I'm thinking so as well. I think as you said before, it was the blue side, right? Having that #1 seed, you have a slight little advantage heading into the top cut as a nice little reward for how well you did in the Swiss. But hey, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the first game of our quarterfinals. As we mentioned, #1 seed Koenders going head to head against our #8 seed Dosh. So trying to do a little bit of an underdog story. Can he get it done here as early as game #1? Just to try to get one game up ahead is already a good little success. Well, here we go. Turn #1 of this game series.
Yeah, so it's definitely a very strong Gyarander game for Dosh. So I wonder if the plan could be to keep Minotaur in play and just maybe Purgation the Turok or something like that. And this is what we're going to see. Yeah.
I love it.
Come out. Yeah.
And it looks like both sides buffing up their ally Temtem, so taking a page from each other's book. But let's see how much this Beta Burst on the Minotaur doing. Bring him down to 41, but I dare say this Stone Ball, and oh, it does not kill. So close.
Yeah, this is a very interesting turn now because I think I wonder if Koenders feels pressured to save the Ragnet now, because I'm fairly certain that Ragnet from 11% might go down if there's offensive investment on this Minotaur. So Dosh may be able to just kill the Ragnet straight up with the electric attack. And if he does that, the Gyarander, its Piezoelectric Blow, can do a lot of damage to Koenders off of that. So be interesting to see if Dosh wants to then save the Minotaur to try and get that going later, or if he's more interested in continuing to press his advantage, because he doesn't have very good swaps for the 𝗵𝗀𝗊, right? Like, if Minotaur leaves, Beta Burst is going to hurt a lot, especially if he sparks it again, right? So he has to start, you know, watching himself here a little bit. But the 𝗧𝗏 is in a good position. It's just not a lot of good stuff to hit.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I do think if the Minotaur does decide to stay in, I feel like one little final hasty lunge does bring the Ragnet down. But as you said, if Minotaur stays in, we saw how much that +1 special attack Beta Burst did already on the Minotaur. So one more Beta Burst and the Minotaur does go down. And hey, that Minotaur was looking kind of good for the likes of the 𝗂𝗀 in the back line. But with that said, at least you still have a nice little Garunder able to dish out some pain on the 𝗂𝗀 as soon as those electric techniques go online. But of course, at the very least, you have some toxic damage capabilities as well. So this will be an interesting turn. I feel like no one is going to be swapping, but oh, the Minotaur does. So well done, Dosh, preserving the Minotaur down the road.
Oh, and in comes the Garunder. Okay, this is very interesting. There's another Sparks, yeah. I wonder if Koenders just course here, or if he just hits the same spot again. Oh, Rock Fallout going faster. So 𝗂𝗏 has higher base speed than the 𝗵𝗀𝗊. We can infer that. And then the Beta Bursts. Okay, so Garunder is dropping pretty low now to the point where Koenders can just kill it before it attacks if it doesn't have Electric Blow active. So Dosh has sort of traded his Garunder's viability for his Minotaur's viability. So later on in the game, we might see that come out.
Yeah, well said. And you know, Garunder is a toxic typing, so at the very least, the Tornado should be doing neutral damage. And if we saw the Beta Burst doing about what is it, 43% right there. I think the marbles was a little bit there, so less than that. A Tornado should almost be enough. And of course, if you add that in with the capabilities of what 𝗂𝗀 has, it should be going down. But this 𝗂𝗏 still sitting pretty, and we do know on our end that it is Iridescence. Dosh probably scouted throughout the tournament, probably has a good eye that is Iridescence as well. So something like what we've been seeing, that Stone Ball onto that spot will be effective damage. So interesting decisions to be had here going forward into our turn 3. I'm wondering if you keep in this Garunder though.
The Tornado is a little risky because it could be Thick Skin, right, on Garunder. So that would make it resist the Tornado and not deal very much. It's kind of tricky. I don't make too many like player callouts, but I wonder if Koenders is bluffing here that this 𝗂𝗀 is not iridescent, because the Stone Ball play is just kind of very clear if it is.
Oh,
now, here
and
comes the Gamma.
Mm-hmm.
He's just going right for 𝗂𝗏.
Yeah, it looks like he thinks that's a bigger threat, and it looks like it was the good play because it does do bigger damage on that neutral 𝗂𝗀. So well done for Koenders, recognizing the bigger potential threat, because look at that, Wastewater not really doing too much. So maybe he doesn't know it's Iridescence.
Or he didn't, and now he does, right? So that's a little bit of a yikes here, because Koenders is more than happy to just give up the 𝗵𝗀𝗊, I think, this turn and just throw a Tornado at whatever Dosh brings in on that side. It's going to be Yggdrasil, so this would be kind of a strange turn here.
Yeah, definitely. You know, looking at the back line, I like that he did bring in Yggdrasil, because Koenders still hasn't used Tornado, right? I'm pretty certain most 𝗵𝗀𝗊s run Tornado, right? So he should have that online. The question stands, though, does he want to overexert so heavily just to try to get a big amount of damage? Because he could swap in the Minotaur to eat that Tornado, and then that 𝗵𝗀𝗊 use that big attack all for not too much across the board. But let's see. First things first, Garunder going to be swapping into the back line. Does the Yggdrasil stay in?
Gets hit by Tornado. I like this play from Koenders. I'll talk a bit about it. Why? Oh, it does live, though. That's kind of interesting. And 𝗂𝗀 just finishes it off. Yeah, that makes sense. So this is a term that we borrow from chess a little bit. It's like simplifying the position. Like, Koenders has an advantage here. He has this super jacked 𝗵𝗀𝗊, +2 special attack, and he's got an HP advantage on Dosh. It, like, makes sense for him to just keep making the most obvious plays, like Tornado, neutral stream there. If Minotaur swaps in, it's probably still dead. He is just simplifying down his position and, like, making Dosh lose more and more resources until eventually he's going to be able to, like, now, for example, 𝗵𝗀𝗊 can leave, and it's going to be able to kill the Scunch, very likely, and like the simplified position should be advantage Koenders from here.
Yeah, I really like what you're saying, just virtually covering all his bases, not letting go of the gas pedal per se. So yeah, Koenders pushing it forward. And yeah, I do think just preserving that Barnchi, it is overexerted. It's not going to be doing too much going forward. So, you know, swapping into the 𝗧𝗵𝗶, that feels like it's not going to get too hurt from any of these Temtems. And then at the very least, you do have things like 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗶 online for the following turn on the Scunch if you just want to pressure it out there. But, you know, I would be more keen to try to pressure out the Minotaur, right? A nice little acid reflux or even just a toxic ink just to try to chip away at it. And then Barnchi can truly run away with the game. You have the win for Garunder. You have the beta burst potential for the Scunch. This is definitely looking like Koenders' game to lose here. He's looking really advantageous.
Yeah, I would say the only difficult turn is probably this one. 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗶, there's no real good swap in for the Minotaur. It might be 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗶 that comes in to take the hit here. So we see the swap out. This is probably 𝗧, I would imagine. There it is. If Dosh goes into this with his Minotaur and his Scunch here, oh, I don't think Dosh is understanding that it's. Oh, he does get the kill though. Maybe that mattered. Yeah.
Definitely taking down that 𝗬𝗂𝗽𝗍 nice and early before it was able to deploy a technique is always what you want to see if you're on the side of Dosh. So well done, finally taking down that pesky little fish. Now you just need to take down that Barnchi. Of course, Koenders isn't going to make it easy whatsoever. So instead, bringing the 𝗬𝗀𝗽, which is still 4x damage to electric. So he has to be rather careful.
I really like that play from Dosh going for the double 𝗬𝗂𝗽. Now that I think about it, like now he gets a free hasty lunge into either Barnchi or 𝗬𝗀𝗽, and it's going to go down to that. So I think that's really well played from him there. He's going to basically trade the Minotaur in for the 𝗬𝗀𝗽, and Dosh has turned this around really nicely.
Yeah, definitely. That's exactly why we saw on that early turn. He preserved the Minotaur because of that speed advantage and the Sparkling Bullet synergy. So well done, you know, preserving that Minotaur, as we said, looking to be the potential game-winning play. Does the Toxic Ink kill not even close, which means the Barnchi nowhere to run. He didn't use Hasty Lunge or even Piezoelectric Blow that is online right here, right now, and Barnchi has no speed. So, oh my goodness, we said it was Koenders' game to lose. Is Dosh going to be making that reverse comeback?
Yeah, I would wager, if I were a betting man, I would say this is probably the last game of this tournament that Koenders doesn't ban Minotaur.
Yeah, it did so much.
It almost got him in Swiss too, right? So this is definitely not a great spot for him. I think the turn when the Barnchi swapped out, it wasn't overexerted, right? Or no, it was overexerted. It committed the tornado. It's interesting. I mean, Dosh did a really good job of kind of positioning the Minotaur there. So great, kudos to him. Well played.
Well,
because he feels confident that he can use Ragnet, but Dosh kind of played into that and just went ahead and purgationed. Yeah, and there you go. You see the Minotaur is banned out here.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe it was like a 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗶 that he banned the first time, but there we go. Koenders catching wind of how strong that Minotaur is, so does get it banned. But now let's see, because Koenders was looking good. Does he like the same startup, the Ragnet into Barnchi, or does he have something else in mind? First things first, we gotta see what Dosh is banning. I think it was the mix the first time around, right?
Yeah, but I like the Tyrannek here. The Tyrannek makes a lot of sense because Dosh has 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗶 open to him, and Koenders doesn't. He's got the neutral 𝗂𝗽𝗍. I don't know if he has that much stuff that like really jumps off the page as being strong into 𝗬𝗵 on his team. Scunch perhaps, but that's about it.
So let's see. Now that he has that information that it is indeed going to be iridescence, things like that 𝗬𝗏 doesn't seem too bad, right? I could almost see it getting picked up. It does pretty good damage into every other Temtem, and 𝗬𝗀𝗽 doesn't have that turn 1 pressure onto the 𝗬𝗏, right? So I definitely feel like a 𝗬𝗏 is a rather safe pick. Now to follow that up, oh, interesting, 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗶𝗏, and it looks like he's not even considering the 𝗬𝗏. What does he have in mind? I thought 𝗬𝗏 was looking rather safe with things like Ragnet, the mix in the background. You got wind techniques for the 𝗧𝗲𝗺. But maybe Dosh has another game plan. Of course, he did already win one game against Koenders, so he has a plan. Let's see how he executes it.
I like this pick from Dosh. The 𝗬𝗏 does make some sense, like you were saying. Plus, the only problem is that the stone ball is so slow that the 𝗂𝘀 can get ahead of it with water cannon and deal a ton of damage, right, to the 𝗬𝗏, and maybe even kill it before it moves, like we saw in the last game. This opening for Koenders is a little bit more defensive. He doesn't have any, stab water attacks on the 𝗂𝘀𝗽, so the 𝗬𝗊, if it's got high, decent bulk, it might not die here. Also, the 𝗂𝘀 is likely threatened by Fire Crystal, and there's no good swap-ins for Koenders in the back, so this is definitely not a bad draft for Dosh, even on orange.
Yeah, it's looking pretty good. And at the very least, things like 𝗃𝗀𝗃 is still effective damage into the iridescence, right? Because fire usually half effective into water, so it's still good damage nonetheless. As well as, I guess, nature too. Oh, no, it works the other way. Nature usually effective, and man, iridescence can get a bit confusing. But yeah, looking like a solid draft so far. Picking up the Ninja Stone and then the 𝗰𝗶𝗰 to follow up. Let's see how Koenders' final two Temtems to decide. I really like the sparks that he was getting done with the Ragnet. But maybe with the 𝗬𝗵𝗆 on Dosh's side, not feeling too confident. And just wants a bit more of a powerhouse Temtem that the 𝗬𝗏 provides him. So we'll see.
Yeah, there's not a lot of good pivots on Koenders' team to come in off of this, like, 𝗬𝗊 𝗬𝗏 opener, so I'm really curious to see what he decides to do. I think the information that Dosh can glean from that last game is that the 𝗂𝘀 died from, like, almost 50% from Brawny Suplex, right? So it probably will go down to a double here from 𝗃𝗀 plus CPG. So that means that Koenders is definitely pressured to swap, or he's just going to lose a Tem for free. I wonder if... there's not really a lot that happens on Koenders' backline that comes in that's really excited to take that. Maybe his mix gets into PM from it, we'll see.
Yeah, true. That could be a little bit of a calculations for Koenders if he thinks it's going to be... I mean, it definitely lives, but does it get in Puppet Master range is the question. I'm loving the little whip coming in just to make sure that 𝗬𝗵𝗆 not only packs a punch with that +1 attack, but also gets a little bit more speed off that whip. But interesting enough, does decide to retreat it, save it down the road. In comes the 𝗧𝗏 just to get all those hold moves online, and you get the neutral synergy.
Yeah, I don't mind this play at all. I mean, the pressure play was probably also just fine, but he's going to get the holds up, like you said, and the synergy on 𝗃𝗀 is nice. That's quite a bulky 𝗧𝗏𝗃 there, only taking about 25%.
And
but it is vulnerable to sleep, so Koenders got to be careful with that.
Oh, very true. Sleep is online, and I believe it should be faster, right? The Wind Burst went last, but I know it was with 𝗃𝗀𝗃 was 3 priorities, so we don't know exactly how fast it is with the Hypnosis, but I dare say probably could outspeed. But maybe just keeps the pressure going forward, but you do have to be a bit careful with 𝗧𝗏𝗃, right? Some 𝗧𝗏𝗃s tend to run that first aid kit, so if you bring it down to 25%, not only do you activate the trance trait, but of course you get a nice little 25% recovery from that item. So we'll see. This is actually looking like a tougher position for Dosh now that things like Tsunami go online. That's good effective damage on the 𝗬𝗊. Well, let's see. This is going to be an interesting turn.
It was a difficult swap for him in that he took damage, didn't really improve his board state, and now there's also there's a chance Koenders has Narco hit on this Nox, and the 𝗧𝗏 just has to leave now. So it's a bit of a tricky swap. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe he expected he would catch the 𝗂𝘀 or the mix with the 𝗃𝗀𝗃 and just bring it down, but we do see that it's not the case.
Yeah, so good swap out, but here we go, staying in with everything. Tornado, let's see how much these are going for, and down the 𝗧𝗏 goes, almost down all the way, but the Savage Suplex trying to play the favor down at 35.6. Can something like a Matter Teleport finish off the job? Or does he go for a Hypnos? But here it goes, chat. Matter Teleport. Does it have it in it? 35.6%. Yes, it does. So down it goes, and you get a little proc going. So saving it, and does save it from that toxic tick damage. So rather good turn, I will say. It wasn't absolutely free. It did come at a big cost. The cost being all that HP he took. But taking down the 𝗂𝘀 is a big step forward for Dosh. So well done on that turn.
Yeah, for sure. Thing that you have to watch out for when you're playing teams like Koenders that are maybe a little slower than your opponent is you got to watch out even these like 2 lower HP Tems. Like Rock Raton, the Scunch, is quite low HP, but it has Jutsu up, and it might just outspeed both these Tems anyways, so Dosh is going to get value here one way or the other.
And it looks like he decides to target the 𝗧𝗵𝗶, but hey, that's a rather speedy Ragnet if he does outspeed the Scunch Ninja Jutsu, but decides to go for the 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗍, and does he have first aid kit down to 10.1%? Let's see. So trance number 1 does proc right here. Does he have a gear to follow that up? And it looks like he does, so very well done. 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗀 already virtually back up to 50% HP, so all that damage almost feeling like it was for nothing, so a bit of a feels bad moment. You know, 𝗧𝗍, what if you did all that into the Ragnet? Do you think it would be close to killing it?
I think Dosh's plan, more or less from here, is that he's kind of understanding that Koenders just doesn't have a lot of damage on the Ragnet, and if he just ignores it and kills the Tems that the Ragnet is trying to sparks, that it's going to go well for him. I don't know if it's necessarily going to work out, but he gets another attack here on the Scunch. It's going to be hard for Koenders to resist it, and then from there, he can kind of just try to clean up the game with his 𝗬𝗏𝗻. Like, it's +1 attack, it's +1 speed, it's got full stamina. It probably has a bait, I would imagine, on it. And, you know, he can just kind of put that damage in. Also, I don't think his 𝗬𝗍 overexerted. So that means he just has another free double into the Nox, and I don't know if Koenders really has a good way to swap out of that. So he's going to have to hope that he can get some sort of accelerated speed or some way to kill. He just doesn't have very many fast moves on his Tems, so it's like kind of hard for him to stop Dosh from just kicking his door down with these 2 Tems, even though they're low HP.
Yeah, well said. It looks like Dosh can just continue to apply the pressure. You know, as you said, the 𝗬𝗍 did not overexert, so a potential double up. It doesn't have defense capabilities, right? Trance is only special defense, so here goes attack number 1. Bring it down to 20.5. Does the Ninja Jutsu with that War Drum do the remainder? I say yes, but instead Savage Suplex looking like the 𝗧𝗵𝗺𝗀 going down. So yeah, leaving the Ragnet alone and just leaving it wide open for the 𝗬𝗵𝗆 to get the job done down the road. So very well played so far for Dosh. And you know, is he gonna be accomplishing that underdog story? It's very rare we usually see the number 8 seed take down the number 1 seed, but he is looking really good and playing very, very well at that as well.
This is an interesting situation here. I kind of feel like Dosh wanted to die on that 𝗬𝗍. He probably didn't want it to stay alive, and that might be the window that Koenders needs to get back into this game.
Okay. I could see it.
Now
Maybe wanted to get... And go ahead.
Now he has a way to, like, use perfect jab plus maybe a harmful lick here and do a lot of damage to 𝗬𝗏𝗆. Although, or maybe he tries to take some sort of swap out and hopes Nebula won't live a CPG. It is tough. It is very tough for Koenders from here, but Dosh only being able to make 1 attack this turn does help him quite a bit.
Yeah, you know, you're so right. I believe he would have maybe liked to bring in 𝗰𝗶𝗆, right? Because of that iridescence, you do have a solid water cannon that does double damage onto it. But here we go. Maybe just electing to save the 𝗬𝗍 down the road. Instead, brings in Ninjasil. But alright, let's see what the 𝗬𝗵𝗆 decides to do. I almost feel like you have to go for the 𝗂𝘀𝗶𝗆, but might as well get the double damage while you can.
Yeah, so he's going to try and go for the kill here, I would imagine, with the harmful lick onto the 𝗬𝗏𝗆. If this kills, we've got a kind of an interesting game.
And it'll be huge! 79%! That neutral 𝗂𝘀𝗶𝗆 is the heaviest hitting neutral Temtem I've ever seen. It is so impactful with that resistance badge as well.
Now, is Koenders running 𝗨𝗆𝗆 Electric Blow on this Ragnet? And if so, can he get ahead of this 𝗬𝗏𝗆? Oh, it's plethoric. Probably not. That is really interesting.
Yeah, exactly right, because it is online. You said it exactly right? 𝗨𝗆𝗆 Electric Blow has been enough turns in this game for it to be online. I dare say he does run it, but with that plethoric 𝗰𝗶𝗆 having that additional, what is it? Is it like 15% increase or a little bit more on speed?
I think it's a little bit more than that. I think it's closer to 30.
Okay.
So Koenders just get a double here, though. He gets to throw Filings, and he gets to throw Lick into this 𝗰𝗆𝗆 and hope that he can at least bring it down low enough that Mix can kill. Dosh has got to keep applying pressure. I'm not sure if this swap is in his favor. Oh, he whipped.
Oh, just to guarantee it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he wanted to do that, though. That's a little bit interesting. Because this lick is going to bring him under Plethoric. There's Snare on the R badge, but now Koenders gets Nebula out, and with the Plethoric gone on the 𝗬𝗠, he probably outspeeds this 𝗬𝗆 with his mixes like Crystal Spikes, it could be Energy Manipulation, and any move from the 𝗬𝗠 is just going to put Mix into Puppet Master here.
Exactly right. And you know what makes it even worse? I mean, you had to go for the Ragnet if Paizo Electric Blow was heading your way, but it almost didn't even matter, right? The 𝗧𝗏 basically did obviously the Paizo would have taken it all the way down to 0, but the harmful lick virtually taken down into that raid HP. And what makes matters worse is now the 𝗬𝗠, in order to outspeed, as you mentioned, that Crystal Spikes with the 3 priority, it has to go for like a tornado of its own, but then you don't get to get the water damage on that neutral 𝗧𝗏 that we were talking about earlier. So there goes the tornado. Instead going for that neutral 𝗧𝗏, doesn't want to get Puppet Master online, bringing it under 40%. Can the 𝗬𝗆 do the remainder? Fiery Soul, oh, so close, but it's gonna be able to get off a final attack. That might make the world of difference here.
That was a pretty interesting turn. Like, he didn't target the mix with either of those moves, and the 𝗧𝗏 living means that Koenders is definitely, I think, in a good. Oh, but Koenders also attacks, but that doesn't matter. He's dead to the burn anyways. But now it's kind of a 1v1 between Yggdrasil and Mix here. I don't think I like Yggdrasil's chances, but we'll see.
Yeah, you know, I've always said if Yggdrasil can kind of spores himself, maybe there's a world, but with that sweatband on the Mix, I think Mix is going to be having plenty stamina to work with going forward, and Yggdrasil does half effective damage into the likes of Mix, so I could only agree more with you, East. It looks pretty solid for Koenders, and I was almost certain that Dosh had it locked up, but this is the beauty of Temtem. You never know until the very, very end. 𝗧𝗏𝗺's doing a good number on that Yggdrasil, so slowly but surely it looks like Koenders should have this one locked up, especially considering that he's not even using that much stamina in the first place.
I'm fairly certain that if Dosh's 𝗬𝗆 dies to the overexertion, that Dosh wins this game. Like not being able to take that turn with the overexerted 𝗬𝗆, only having one turn on the Cimmerian, was huge for Koenders, because he got the P-Jab lick onto the Cimmerian, got it killed. His Ragnet lived the CPG, kind of put Dosh in a difficult position. And I'm pretty sure he's gonna. Yeah. Koenders has got this with the Surge plus these spikes here. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, especially with the little refresh, right? Doing a little bit extra damage. I believe 50% additional damage. So a final little 𝗍𝗏, Crystal Spike, pick your move. It does not matter. Koenders will be making things interesting. It looks like we're heading ourselves into a game number 3 for this quarterfinals matchup. So hey, leave it to Koenders to make that little comeback there. So this is it, chat. One Tamer will have that tournament run ending right here, right now.
Against Tyrannac or Mix. And then Koenders will adapt appropriately.
Yeah, so you know, even though we thought Koenders was a little bit behind earlier game, I think that Minotaur served them, the Minotaur band served them very, very well going forward in that game number 2. So I would be surprised if he changes that up, right? If it works, might as well not switch it up. So the Mix instead of the Tyrannac this time. So perhaps we see that mythical dino in this final game number 3, but there we go. The Minotaur does catch the band one more time. So let's see, he started off with the Shimurian 𝗬𝗆 as his opener. It worked out really good until, as you mentioned before, the 𝗬𝗆 didn't die from the overexertion, making all the difference in that game. So let's see, maybe he has a different kind of line of play in mind, since he does have blue side counter pick here.
Yeah, Garinder coming out first. He can't first pick Cimmerian anymore because Tyrannac is available for Koenders. So Koenders is going to go ahead and drop the Knack, which is very interesting. It gives his team already a very different look now that he's decided to go for what appears to be Tyrannac 𝗁𝗍 out of the opener. That's a very, very interesting opener. I don't actually think it's as favored for Koenders as he thinks. Dosh kind of playing into that, though, maybe. So the one of the most interesting things about this opener is that unless Tyrannax swaps out, 𝗁𝗀 doesn't actually have neutrality anymore. So like Water Cannon Wastewater actually does a ton of damage to it.
True.
Yeah, so Koenders may be pressured to swap out the 𝗁𝗀 here as a result. But we'll have to see what goes from there.
Yeah, you know, I almost feel like a lot of pressure is coming in on that Tyrannox spot too, right? Even like a Wastewater Water Cannon feels like it should be doing a good amount of damage at the very least. But with that being said, I do think the Tyrannox can dish out a good amount of pain. It does have things like Sharp Leaf and Plague, right? Or, you know, it is a physical attacker, so most likely doesn't have access to Plague. But it still has some good nature techniques. The best one, of course, being Outgrowth, but it's not going to be online as early as turn 1, so we'll see. I do think that Dino might just get pressured out, but we'll see.
The dual stab of fire and nature is very strong into a lot of Dosh's Tems. There aren't a lot of Tems that can deal with both, 𝗬𝗓 being one of them. But, you know, we see the bans here. See, Koenders has banned out the 𝗬𝗵𝗶 in the second phase. Even though Dosh let him have Scunch, I believe. Oh, Scunch, he chose not to ban Scunch in the second round. So that means that, you know, the Chim is still well represented in counters in the draft. So that's kind of an advantage for Dosh there. Really interesting. We haven't seen Koenders Scunch, I believe, yet, have we?
I don't think so. Yeah, it just has been Dosh's Scunch that we've been familiar with. But one thing I will note, Dosh finally putting some respect on that 𝗬𝗫𝗄𝗽 name, right? It did so much work and has packed such a punch this entire tournament series, or entire tournament run, I will say. So yeah, finally does get the ban there. So we'll see. Maybe that does make a difference, right? He has access to the Dino, but doesn't no longer have access to that 𝗬𝗫𝗄𝗽 that he's been doing so well with. So this is definitely going to be a very good game for the finals of our quarterfinals, or our final game of our quarterfinals. A little little tough to say there.
Koenders is kind of showing a different mode to his team. It wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, he doesn't bring the Ragnet. So this is sort of like the more physical attacking mode of his team, where he's got a Scunch. He's probably got Stare. There's a good chance he has Stare on the Nox. And that plus the Tyrannax and the perfect jab from Scunch can really amp up Tyrannax's physical damage. I wonder if he's going to try and play the game that way. This is a really interesting turn 1. I mean, both of Koenders' Tems are threatened by doubles here. And 𝗁𝗀 doesn't have the neutrality to stop the Toxic Ticks, so it's looking vulnerable as well. So both of these Tems are threatened. Dosh very likely feeling not as threatened, so it'll be interesting to see what they go for here.
Yeah, you know, with that said, I do think both of these Temtems from Dosh current board, right? The 𝗬𝗪 has some good potential for that backline 2Kai. The 𝗬𝗵𝗆 has some good pressure on that backline 𝗧𝗏𝗺, so I can't really decide for Koenders who is more of a problem. Maybe you want to just chip away at 𝗬𝗵𝗆 so the plethoric goes away just nice and early. But I'm not too sure. This is definitely a trickier turn 1. I wouldn't be surprised if that Tyrannox does retreat for something like the 𝗧𝗏𝗺, just to maybe just get some toxic pressure, resist the wastewater that could be coming in. But like you said before, right, maybe he just ignores Tyrannox, and because of the neutrality not being online, just goes full on pressure onto the 𝗁𝗀, because the 𝗁𝗀, on the other hand, against Dosh is looking devastating, right? You got those win techniques for the Yggdrasil, the 𝗬𝗪, and then just strong Gamma Burst, but interesting, everything just stays put.
Yeah, I think if you're Koenders, you don't have a really good swap to deal with 𝗬𝗏, so you want to be trying to hit it. Maybe he goes for Sharp Leaf here. Oh, not quite enough. And Dosh rests, forgetting maybe that Brimation does not work with Tyrannax on the board, so
wow,
no Brimation, so he won't get that 𝗀𝗀 Electric Blow he's hoping for. Definitely probably wanted to click Wastewater there, so the Dino claiming another one.
Yeah, you know, it's always so hard to play against. If you're not used to playing it, you just kind of slip your mind. But man, what a worse time to have that go past your head. Forgetting here in game 3. That is a big bummer.
Yeah, he takes a bunch of damage on 𝗬𝗏 here, which is great news if you're Koenders, because that 𝗬𝗏 was looking mighty scary for a 𝗧𝗏𝗺 swap in. But now Koenders is under, like, Koenders can leave on the Tyrannax, go to Nox, and simply attack the 𝗬𝗏 here. And unless Dosh reads that and goes for a NATO, it's not likely going to be very successful trying to outpace what's going on here.
Yeah, I believe so too. And the thing about Koenders only having access to a singular physical electric, right? Like a really strong, and that being 𝗲𝗀 electric blow. And that's not online because of the Intimidator, as we just saw. So 𝗬𝗺𝗀 just sitting pretty, not feeling too much of the pressure. And yeah, 𝗬𝗺 could just go ahead and retreat, as you mentioned. The 𝗬𝗺𝗀 clean up the 𝗬𝗶. So things are looking pretty good if you're on Koenders' side of things. But let's see, I am trying to think, if I'm Dosh, what potentially could be the best line of play to try to get this little advantage back onto his side?
That's a really good question. I think Koenders is extra incentivized to swap 𝗬𝗺 because he would like 𝗬𝗺𝗀 to get neutrality back in case Dosh tries to hit it with wastewater. So, because if you're Dosh, I think the best play you can go for is to start trying to threaten this 𝗬𝗺𝗀 more aggressively. Don't let it have the HP to kind of sit there and Gamma Burst you and Tornado you over and over again and create all these problems. If Koenders can get like a Scunch in or maybe 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗶, oh, he goes for the lockdown play instead.
Huge. That means he's definitely thinking about the wastewater. Does he get the kill? I think so. 37% isn't all that much, but at least it's going to be trading 1-for-1. So 𝗬𝗶 going down. Does the wastewater do enough? I dare say yes. So does it? And that it does. So the big old Dino going down. And as you said, it was rather important. You have things like Flaming Meteorite for the Yggdrasil. But you know, maybe not the most important, because you at least have some wind Temtems to deal with that Yggdrasil as well. You just have to be a bit careful now. 𝗬𝗺𝗺𝗁𝗺 electric blow is 100% online right now. So this 𝗬𝗺𝗀 definitely feeling the heat going forward into turn number 2. So let's see, 𝗧𝗏𝗺, as we thought was going to be swapped out last turn, swaps it now. So yeah, this is why 𝗬𝗶 is such a great Temtem, right? Whenever you pair it up with a 2 electric pairing, that Gust comes in so handy, especially in those important early turns. And we just saw that. That's probably what Dosh really needed, right? You needed to take care of that big old Dino nice and early. So well done. You know, I say these guys are rather even so far going into turn 3.
Yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic. I think maybe 𝗬𝗺𝗀 is a little bit more important to Dosh than 𝗬𝗺 is to Koenders in terms of this kind of end game plan. Also, the thing to keep in mind, but yeah, he's just going to give up his 𝗬𝗺𝗀 here by going for Tornado. Koenders really doesn't want to take too much damage off of swaps here. Like, he's got to be really careful about how he handles his kind of swap game. So you do see 𝗬𝗏𝗺𝗃 go up. Does Koenders hit it?
Yeah.
Teleport.
We will find out, but one thing certain is that the Koenders does overexert, so intended to hit that 𝗬𝗆 there with the Toxic Ink, but not going according to plan. But at the very least, doesn't have to worry about any electric techniques for this following turn, and even the next one, of course. So now the 𝗂𝗏 comes in. You have those wind bursts with that spreader trade, looking like it could be doing a good little chip damage on the 𝗬𝗆, and the following turn with that Tornado, it is looking rather good. I think this 𝗂𝗏 is looking really nice, but the Hypnosis not allowing that to be had. So 𝗂𝗏 gonna be put to sleep, and it doesn't look like 𝗧𝗏𝗺 has enough in it to do that 55%.
This might be Death of Ticks? No, not quite. There's the Brimation, though, so now Koenders is in trouble against these electric Tems again. There's Intoxicado is just kind of free to swing away with 𝗲𝗍's electric blow here, and if he covers the swap with Matter Teleport, Koenders is not going to be able to survive with the Scunch if he swaps in the Scunch. So now he has to choose which Tem he wants to get rid of, his Scunch or his 𝗂𝗏.
Yeah, you know, you're so right. I think Koenders is stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? He's damn if he does, damn if he doesn't, right? The Paizo, because that's what Brimation does, right? Increase the hold moves, removes it by 1.
Yep.
Okay.
So he should have 𝗲𝗍's electric blow up here.
And that he does. So let's see, does he cover every base? And he does. The Matter Teleport will be devastating on the Scunch. So 4x damage, and you get that 1 turn of evasion. So 𝗧𝗏𝗺 not looking too good. But Narcoleptic Hit learned the lesson from the last time. We'll be on that Intoxinado. But dude, Garunder is looking like a really good Temtem in this match. This is his moment, right? We've been saying, when is Garunder's time to shine? It is shining right here, right now in the end game of our quarterfinals. Is it enough though? Did the Garunder accomplish enough? Taking down the 𝗵𝗺, taking down the 𝗧𝗵𝗵𝗺 virtually. Did it do its job? It still feels rather close, but it's looking pretty good for Dosh.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, I think if you go back to the turn 1, Koenders is probably wishing that he had decided to attack this Garunder more often, right? Like, he is at risk of being outsped now. In fact, I think if the 𝗬𝗆 comes back in, he's almost certainly going to be outsped, right? He's +1 speed, and then the morale boosting whip coming in is going to make a big difference here. So I think this is going to kind of seal the deal for Dosh.
I think so, dude. So incredible performance from Dosh. I don't want to speak too soon, but as you said, the whip coming through, adding the speed, Piezoelectric Blow, 4x damage, 100 down to 0. Incredible. The 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗶 will be proccing again, keeping that 𝗬𝗆 nice and safe. Able to get Hypnosis off the following turn after this alert status clears off. So little by little, things are going from bad to worse for the side of Koenders. He was our #1 seed. But I do think his tournament run will be coming to an end, especially considering this 2-rock with those turbines, with the Feather Gatling. Guys, congratulations. Dosh will be moving forward into our semifinals. GG, GG.